All right, welcome back to the Hindsight is 50/50 podcast. Hi, I'm J Rod, and this is my co host, the ORG, old retired guy. Dad, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Had a interesting weekend of sports. I've done a couple things with the family and just been trying to relax a little bit. What about yourself? Anything new or exciting?
No, just country living, the same old stuff. It's home ownership. We had some more wind damage. We get howling winds out here, and it's not
And you
like
lost your last tree, right?
the last of the three pear trees that I believe they were close to 20 years old, and the last of them we lost last week in the wind. Lost a couple pieces of siding too, which I still have to. It's stuff that I can't get to, so I got to deal with that with the insurance company. But
Just send Greg out there.
just doing Greg actually has one of those lifts, so I could send Greg out there, but
probably do it for free.
well, he repaired a piece in the back that was literally 30 feet off the ground, directly above the walkout. That was 30 feet off the ground, and he fixed that for me for free.
That is one hell of a neighbor to have.
He's great.
He's got all the tools. He's a great guy, and
yep. And all of the neighbors out here, they work. I think I work a fair amount as far as tinkering and doing things outside. All of my neighbors out here work me into the ground.
Oh, Leroy. God, I mean, you guys have that well, shit. Now he's mowing his fucking lawn. I gotta mow my lawn.
Well,
so Greg is out there on the riding mower, and then all of a sudden you see neighbor Greg out on the tractor.
I swear, and Greg's the worst. And I mean,
that guy just works nonstop.
He cuts lawns. No, about that. I mean, Greg's the absolute best as far as being a neighbor. But he had cut his lawn 3 days ago. This was last week. 3 days prior, he had cut his lawn. There was a nice day, so I cut mine. He came home after working, cutting lawns, and mowed his lawn again.
Yeah.
After 3 days.
I'm not kidding. They are always doing lawns. Have you ever been in his barn down there?
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's got all kinds of stuff going on. But speaking of neighbors, you said you guys got some new neighbors, and I've been razzing you a little bit about it. But what's the background here? What's the story with the new neighbors that are coming in?
Okay, well, our road is a private road, and it kind of winds, and it gets more remote the farther you go back. Ours, although it's very private, it isn't wooded and remote. But as you go back farther beyond us, because it extends for about another quarter to half a mile, it gets really remote. You can't even see the houses. There's so many trees. And so anyway, there was 5 acres up for sale. These people bought it. They've been building a house, which there's still all of this backlash from COVID as far as supply chains, etc., on building materials and contractors.
Yeah, I cannot believe they could afford to build a house.
Well, okay, that's part of the story. These people, you would crack up. And I found this so ironic. They're super nice. I don't know how old they are. I'm terrible at age. They're older than you, but not as old as me.
That's a pretty big fucking gap.
Well, but there's 30 years in there, so there's somewhere in that 30-year gap.
Yeah,
but they're
just
super
a standard
nice.
lifetime.
they're super nice, and this process has taken a while. So as I do, and I've done this with JJ. With your son JJ, I'll take the quad back there on the weekends because they've got a building site back there, and I mean they had a basement, they had lots of building materials on the ground, and whenever I'd see a car go by that I didn't recognize, if it was during daylight hours, I'd hop on the quad. Again, one time I took JJ with me, and I'd just ride back there up to their house just to see if somebody was back there stealing something or doing something they weren't supposed to do. And they actually the lady stopped one day, introduced herself. I was out in the yard messing around, and she introduced herself. Really nice lady. She told me about her husband. And so I went back there and stopped and talked to them one day when I knew they were there, because he's not building the house, but he's overseeing the building of the house. And again, I think they're fairly well to do. And I had told them that it was before my birthday. My birthday was the middle of the month. And I told them when I saw them up at their place, I said, well, yeah, I'll be 67 next week. So in the meantime, they had come down and she needed help with something. And it took me about 30 seconds and a pair of wire cutters, and I helped her out. And she was extraordinarily grateful. And then another time she came down and she asked me if I had some kind of a file. Well, I didn't have that kind of file that she wanted, but I just handed her 2 or 3 files, and I go, well, maybe one of these will work. And evidently it did. So they brought the tools back at the end of the day. And then the next week, when it was my birthday, and it happened to be on my birthday, they come to the house, they hand me a card. They give me a pot of flowers for the porch.
Jesus.
And the husband and the husband says to me, he goes, you can't give a guy just flowers. So he hands me a dozen golf balls and a greenskeeper, like the little pocket tool, like
that's
the divot
legit.
fixer or whatever.
I mean, that is a guy who gets it.
Jared, that's not the best part. The card was the absolute best part. But even cooler than that, and I know your gaming name is Five.
Yeah.
His company, which his company is called Fives.
What?
Fives.
All right.
It's on the golf balls. It's on the greenskeeper thing. Fives.
What does he do?
They're in the auto parts supply business for the big three.
Nice.
I think, and I don't know this, and I don't know them other than, a few interactions with them like I've had so far.
Playing tummy sticks and all that.
Yeah, well, whatever. But no, they're super
Playing with
nice
another
people.
man's balls.
They hand me this card, and this card has a guy on a motorcycle, and he's climbing up this hill. And then it shows the downside of the hill, and it's got an arrow, and it says, and then points to the downside of the hill. You open it up, it says, over the hill, maybe. Badass, for sure. And
I take it they've seen you on your bike?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've seen
me on the hill is the reference to the hill down our private drive, right?
No. The hill is a reference to my age.
I know, but I mean, it's fitting that you're the guy who rides a bike over the hill, is what I'm saying.
It's just, I thought it was hilarious. I just thought the card was fantastic. And then it was even funnier because he said to me, he goes, well, they've got company logos on them. And I go, that's great. I'll tell him I know the guy who owns the company. But he seems like a really nice guy, and I think they're going to be great neighbors. I think they're going to move in. I think next month, but you know how that goes.
I mean, that's good though, because there's not much worse than a shitty neighbor.
Right. But they are, he is originally from Hillsdale. I believe it was I don't know if they've been bought out by a major corporation. If you look up Fives, which I did, I mean, there's dots all over the world. So I don't know if they were bought out by a major corporation or what, but just seem like wonderful, just very nice people. Your mom, she tells me now that, I'm a social butterfly. Well,
she does say that.
I'm retired.
So gay.
I have time to talk now.
Oh, God. You are a little butterfly.
Yeah, whatever. And and then we have the other neighbors.
He's a
the other
mouse.
neighbors that moved in, and they're younger. They're both retired military, but they're both in their early 40s. And they have a daughter, and she's like 20, and she has horses, and So I took one of Dad's saddles up to them and I said, test drive it, see if you like it. If you do, we'll negotiate a price. And so, yeah, but your mom, I'm a social butterfly now.
Yeah. I mean, at least she calls you out on it. You
Well,
little
yeah,
thumbs up.
because I'm friendly to our new neighbors.
Yeah. Just the men, though. Just
But
men.
anyway,
You're like,
so
hey,
that's the new
I
neighbor
can't quit
story.
you,
But
cowboy.
they seem they seem like really nice people. Both new neighbors. There are now, this road's almost a mile long, and I think we have the smallest parcel on this road, and it's 4 acres. And there's, with this new home being built, there'll be 12 total houses, but half of them you can't even see from our house. So it doesn't change anything for us, and it's not, add a couple more cars a day on this road. That's, so now there's 12.
Right.
But yeah, they just seem like really nice people.
Are you guys going to ever get a mailbox at the end of the drive, or are you going to be the only house that doesn't have one?
I almost did it last year, and then I just said, yeah.
Yeah, because your asshole postmaster general, whatever the fuck his title was.
Well, he's gone now, and they got rid of him. So, well, I don't have to deal with him anymore. And when he left town or was asked to leave town, I don't. I wasn't the only person who had problems with him, by the way. There were several.
Oh, I know, and
there was an article in the local newspaper about, and it actually showed you how to make a complaint, which
he had problems down in Detroit, didn't he?
Yeah, lots of people think, they forget about, it's U.S. Postal Service, it's federal, so you have to go through this chain of command process,
right,
to make a complaint. Because otherwise, if you make it directly to the post office, it goes to the postmaster, which is that guy. So all he does is rip it up and throw it away.
It's like, oh, I'm a problem? Fuck you. Yeah.
But they actually, in the newspaper,
But I thought you said that he had a past of getting reported in Detroit as well.
In other little towns. I was told, and I don't know this for a fact, but I heard it from somebody who I believe that he had been run out of other local jurisdictions like Manchester is, like our little town is. And, he just had a long history of poor performance, but he was protected somehow. I don't know how, but
that's how it goes. But at least somebody finally caught him.
He's gone now, and so I haven't chosen to put in a wood and metal mailbox.
Yeah,
I still have the PO box because I go into town to take recycled back.
Gives you something to do.
Well, and chat with whomever.
Yeah, you fucking
I bump into
butterfly, big queer.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, other than your gay side stories with the neighbor, we did kind of skip over this, but local news, local sports. Did you want to cover that?
Sure.
Okay,
I watched the Michigan game versus Maryland, as I'm sure you did.
Yes. And I was
go ahead.
Frustrated, a little bit disappointed, but I also think Maryland has always had athletes, and they might actually have a coach that is making them a dangerous team.
I've always said this about Maryland. You're so close to DC and Baltimore, you can get athletes.
Yeah.
And he's from there.
Well, and you're getting the kids from Jersey too. It's
and
they've got a hell of a lot
from Bama.
Yeah, they've got a hell of a lot of athletes, and I do think there are some studs that made it difficult. It showed us film to me that, like, okay, when Michigan plays Indiana almost every year, I hate when we play them because Indiana schemes against us so well. They show like Ohio State and other teams how to beat us. In the past, I probably would have felt that way about the Maryland game, but I actually like what happened this past weekend, and the reason that I like it is because it's early enough in the season, but it also put film in our own film room where it's like, yeah, we have these great big receivers that are total badasses if you get them the ball, and they're faster than shit. Not one of them could get separation. We couldn't settle down and sit in a zone. Well, those are things we're going to see on film that we're going to get right. We also showed that even when a team knows we can't throw it and we're going to run, we can still shove it down their throat, even when they have a pretty good D line. But
Your
I
boy
also
missed
think,
a few long balls too, buddy.
but yeah, well, he did. I think he was off. I don't think that's like a ongoing problem. I think he had a bad day, and I think he looked like shit. But I don't think that's going to be stereotypical for his long ball. He's normally pretty accurate with those. My thing with him was we have to focus for when we get against the big bad schools, because he's got to have a timer in his head to get rid of the ball.
Zero pocket presence in that game. Zero.
He looked like a totally different player.
He held on to the ball. I mean, so many times. Just throw it away or run. You can run. Those are times when you need to run.
And somebody's got to teach him. It's just like any running play. You don't have to hit a home run. 3 to 4 yards does us a hell of a lot of good, putting us in second, medium, or third and short. And it's like he won't run unless he sees 20 yards. And it's like, no, dude, I don't care if you run 4 and slide. That's still better than throwing the ball away. You got 4 yards.
And I love Blake Corum, but we can't be giving him the ball 30 times a game.
You'll kill
him. Repeatedly. We need
run the wheels right off.
We need Donovan Edwards back. I mean, they put Stokes in, who had looked good, albeit against inferior opponents. They gave him 1 carry and he fumbled. So he never saw the ball.
I don't think Edwards can be replaced, because Edwards, to me, although he's not shifty like it, he opens the field like a Darren Sproles does. Like, Edwards' hands as a receiver are so good. You have to cover him out of the backfield because he'll kill you. And guess what? If you put a linebacker on him, we'll audible into an empty set, and now you have a linebacker covering this kid deep, and he's got wheels and great hands. And it's like, when he's not on the field, I'm not saying Corum can't catch or the Stokes kid can't catch, but it's like they're not the same threat as to where he's number 7, right? Edwards 7?
Yes.
It's like when 7 walks on the field, those coaches are like, you have to cover this guy. He's dangerous as hell. You have to cover, because his hands are so freaking good. And it's like he brings a dimension where that threat is there. And I do think that allowed Maryland to bottle us a little bit more because they don't have to cover it. Because, okay, if Edwards is in that game and you keep going flat over and over, that zone or that man coverage, even if they play a little bit of that, it's going to press up. And then it's like you get one combo route from one of our big receivers, Johnson or somebody, and it's like they're gone. So, I mean, I do think without having him on the field, we lose that dimension. And Corum is a hell of a player. But Edwards brings a dimension that you cannot replace because of the threat.
When you look at Corum, and don't jump to a conclusion about this, okay? All I'm saying is he is the exact same size as Barry Sanders. He's not Barry Sanders, but he has that strength. He's like a lot of one cut, where Barry was, 4 jumps and 1 cut.
He reminds me of Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, I actually think he's a better back than him, but and I'm not saying he's Barry, but he's his body size and type, and he's really strong. I just don't think that you can. I don't want to hang our hat on him carrying the ball 30 times a game. He did it, and he got 243 yards, but I think you're asking to wear him down if you do that. So we've got to get Edwards back. We need another back that's able to carry the ball. And I would bet you
Absolutely.
that Stokes has gone through a bunch of drills, not fumbling
Probably had
drills.
to hold a football all week.
Yeah, could be. But I just thought McCarthy played like deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And his stats were not terrible.
It was
They
like he
weren't
was
bad.
stoned. I
But
don't
he
even
missed several
see
opportunities on
like deer in the headlights stands still and gets run
big
over,
time.
right? But like for him, to me, it was
Big time.
almost worse because it wasn't like somebody rung his bell or he looked shook. It looked like he never showed up. It was like, did you party last night and you're hungover? Like your deep ball's off, which it's not normally off. Your short throws are hitting the back hip instead of leading the receiver. Your pocket presence is garbage, and there's times where you're standing there for 6 seconds and you don't even think to check the pocket. It's
you have been a big proponent of his, and I've said all along, I agree with you. He's a heck of an athlete. And Jacob, your brother Jacob, has been way more. I mean, way more. And he and I wasn't doing a I told you so thing because he would, when McNamara was playing, and it was even last year when they won the Big Ten and went to the college football playoff, Jacob was complaining about McNamara the whole time. And I didn't say that. I wasn't going to say I told you so. What I did say was he has no pocket presence, and Jacob totally agreed with me.
I think this is a Harbaugh problem.
Well, I'm not
we've
so
had
sure about that.
quarterbacks
I
where
think this is a
people-
clock in your head. This is an instinct problem.
Yeah, but even his throws were off. And
Did you see Brady the other night? And they
No.
lost the game. But Brady, who he can run faster than me, but not by a lot. He ran for like 15 yards and that's just one run, which he can't run. But he has the presence to be able to step up or step to the side. And he's always had that. He has always had that. And McCarthy, he's got to develop something, at least throwing the ball away.
I really think this is a Harbaugh thing. I mean, we've had QBs and it's happened. People have talked about it on ESPN where it's like, after playing with Harbaugh, they have a completely different throwing animation. And people are like, why? And I don't know if he has this like need to try and force people to do everything his way. But it's like McCarthy, I'm not saying we played good teams, but he looked amazing earlier this season. And then all of a sudden now he looks like garbage. And it's like, we did the same thing with McNamara. I mean, he won a Big Ten championship and then he comes out and he looks like fucking trash. And it's like, who's teaching these guys something that they clearly don't need to be taught? Whatever we're doing is making them worse. Run away.
McNamara can still throw the out as good as anybody that I've seen. He is not a runner. He's nowhere near the athlete that McCarthy is. I think he's a leader. They voted him captain.
Ball is less accurate than me punting the ball.
Yeah. Well, they voted him team captain, I think, and that his teammates did that. So I think there's intangibles there, and I'm not saying he should be starting. All I'm saying is that maybe it was deer in the headlights. Maybe he knows that job is his now, because McNamara was in street clothes on the sidelines, and maybe he knows that job is his. But for whatever the reason, his pocket presence was very, very poor. In fact, mostly non-existent. And he had several opportunities on deep balls where guys did get separation and they were open by 2 or 3 steps, and he overthrew every guy. And he's got I know he's got the arm. I'm sure he can fix
What
it.
makes you wonder too is it that letdown game where like Maryland's better than what you think they are, and you're playing like they're fucking nobody. It the other thing I was gonna say about the deep ball, and this is not to make an excuse because his deep ball was atrocious that game, but like it did seem like everybody was jogging because the field was so wet, and he was still throwing it like people could run it. Like it was like his entire skill set is based off of timing. And because people couldn't get their get off, their launch off the line and couldn't get to full speed as fast, he was still throwing every route as if it was timing instead of where the receiver was. And I wonder the same thing about the pocket. It's like, is one little slip up in the rain like thrown off your footwork and now you don't know what to do because you have no experience? Like,
I don't know.
like along with the deer in the headlights, it was like he could not adjust to it being a little bit wet. And I don't think it was wet enough to make an excuse for anybody to play worse. But I did notice that it substantially slowed players down and people fell down on their cuts and all kinds of stuff. But it's like his deep balls consistently were overthrown. And it's like, dude, you're throwing this as if it's timed like it is in practice every day. And it's like, guess what? When it's wet out, those guys are a half second behind where they normally are. You can't just keep throwing to that spot.
It looked to me just very simply to me like he was pressing. He was really pressing. And when you press, more times bad things happen than good when you're pressing. You just gotta let it go. You gotta block that out. Like clear the mechanism or whatever that is. Because he really, his pocket presence was very poor. His deep passes were bad, but his stats were not bad in that game. They really weren't. They were. And the fact of the matter is, Jared, they played 3 teams that were awful. I mean, those teams are awful. Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn are all terrible Division I football teams. And everybody knows it. So it's easy to look good there. I think he'll rebound. I hope he does. I tell you what, Iowa got embarrassed in the Big Ten championship game. That game's at Iowa. And Kinnick, I'm grateful that the game's a noon kickoff because a night game at Iowa is even tougher. And in spite of their offense, which has looked awful this year, they've got a good defense. They've got a really good defense. So you better watch out. I'm
hoping this is the letdown game, and then we still won it, right? That's what I'm hoping.
Oh yeah, the spread's 10.5, and the betting line that I looked at was 10.5, and it said take Iowa in the points.
If you look around all of college football, there was something in the air this past weekend. I mean, so many teams got jumped up and bit. Like, so many people there were ranked teams losing to unranked teams. There were higher ranked teams beating lower ranked teams, or yeah, that's the right way to say it. There was close games with teams that should have been a blowout. It happened all over this weekend.
Yeah, there were a few of those for sure. There were a few of those for sure. I mean, Clemson, who's ranked 5th, they had to go to overtime to beat Wake. Now, Wake does have a tough quarterback. I don't know that he's an NFL quarterback, but his name's Sam Hartman. He's pretty good. And the game was at Wake. But I think Clemson's way overrated. And it was overtime before Clemson won. And I think Clemson's way overrated. They're A&M should have got beat again. You know, the Arkansas had them on the ropes. Arkansas blew that game. And I like that team. I like Arkansas. I want to like Texas A&M, but right now on offense, they don't show me a lot.
Well, and circling back on the Corum thing, just there was something I wanted to mention before I forgot about it with Corum running the ball so much at Michigan. not only is that hard to sustain for a season, but the way I look at it, you and I have always talked about running backs, and we know their careers aren't long. We know you have to watch out for soft tissue injuries, but we always talk about miles, right? The miles you put on a back, you
Right on a
can't get them
tire.
back.
Yeah.
And it's like, I look at Corum. If you were to do that and he were to survive the season, he becomes, although not as big, not as athletic, in my opinion, he becomes Saquon Barkley. He can be a stud. Penn State fucking rode him into the ground. And then it's like he gets in the league and he can't stay on the field. And when he's on the field, he's still a flash. But he can't stay on the field. He's never healthy.
They need Edwards back, and nobody, they don't have anybody that runs with the toughness of Corum. You look, and even though he's not,
so stout though,
he's 5'8",
but
he moves
like
the pile.
215. I mean,
Yeah,
he's
he
a
moves the
fucking
pile.
rock.
So, and then you see him do that jump cut, and he runs away from people.
Yeah, well, his burst, right? That's it.
I'm
like
not
people
kidding
run
ya.
him down, but when he does that jump cut, his first 3 to 4 steps, he just explodes.
I would have done against, because Maryland was daring Michigan to run the ball, and I would have run read option all day, and JJ can do that. I would have run it all day, and they really didn't. And
I don't know if you saw, but like the 3 times that I saw them run it, he made the wrong
misread it.
fucking read.
He misread it. The end collapsed, and he should have kept the ball.
Yeah, and he'd have
Yes.
been running for
Yes.
days.
Yes. Yeah, but
It was a weird game for him, and I won't, I think he is hands down the better choice than McNamara. I don't think they're even remotely within the same class. But if he's going to play like that, you can find 60 better QBs in NCAA football than the way he played last game.
I would tell you this about McNamara, and I don't think he's the better athlete. You know that. But I think I've told you this before. You watch and see. Next year, Cade McNamara is going to be playing for a really good football team, and it might not be Michigan. And he's going to be playing for a really good team with a lot at stake. And it might be Texas A&M, it might be Georgia, it might be Clemson, but he's going to be playing for a really good. It might be Arkansas. He's going to be playing for a really good team next year, and because he's got a place. I'm not saying he's the better athlete, but he's got a place.
Oh, and there's something to be said for a game manager. I mean, for years when Alabama was building their 10-year or whatever for their dynasty that they have under Saban, there was a very long time where their QBs were game managers. They didn't run very well, didn't have a great deep ball, but they never turned the ball over. And if you're making smart reads and you're doing that, there absolutely is a place in the sport, and you might even make a better case for being an NFL quarterback. But in college,
wasn't it AJ
McCarthy.
McCarron or something like that?
Yeah,
Greg
McCarron. That's
McElroy.
exactly who I'm thinking of. McCarron.
And Greg McElroy was the same way, and I believe he won a national title there too. And he was the same way. He wasn't, he wasn't like flashy. He wasn't outstanding, but he got the job
McCarron
done.
that the announcers got in trouble for talking about his girlfriend?
About his girlfriend. Well, Brent Musburger.
Anyways.
Something lecherous, he said.
Yeah, well, he just said, boys and girls, this is what your girlfriend looks like when you come play QB for the University of Alabama. And everybody's like, whoa, easy, buddy.
Yeah. Yes. And I want to say it was Herb Street doing the game with him, and Herb Street even said something.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Wow. and despite him being an Ohio State guy, I do like Herb Street. He is bad for that. Like, if something bad happens on air, instead of it, hopefully it slides and only a few people caught it, he almost always acknowledges it. And it's like,
I think it comes from having to cover for Lee Corso so
that's
much.
what I'm saying. Like, he'd be like, fuck it, with like the tiger head, and they'd be like, oh my God, you can't say that on game day.
Well, he just
But
did.
anyway, so
And he's
that's kind
still
of
around.
our cover on college sports. Kentucky almost got bit too, by the way. But we had another heartbreaker in the NFL with the Detroit Lions. So it seems like, at least in the media, I don't think his job or anything like that, but just in the media, Campbell, the coach of the Detroit Lions, is kind of in the hot seat right now. And people are bitching, like what it came down to was we had a final drive where we could either go for it, kick a field goal, or punt. And those options potentially iced the game.
With
And
like
so
a minute 15 left.
right. So
Something like
if
that.
if we kick the field goal, the game's over. If we make it.
But it's also a
It's
career long for our
54 yarder.
kicker.
Right. It's very
That would have
long.
been a career long.
And it's
Yes.
one of those, I know 60 plus, it's less than 20%, but I feel like it's like less than 35% of 50 plus yard field goals go in. So I understand the scrutiny. But if we punt the ball, I don't think the other team had any timeouts, but they did have to drive the whole field in a minute and 15 seconds regardless. If we go for it, and again, I didn't watch the whole game, but I had heard that we'd gone for it a few times on fourth down and continued getting it. So if we go for it, it would be kind of following the trend we had done for that game, and we've proven we can get it done. And if we kick the field goal, if we make it,
We're up 6.
we're up 6, but they get a kickoff and they have to drive, and now they have to score a touchdown. A field goal doesn't do anything for them. But if we miss, they get the ball on the 44-yard line, and we missed, and then we lost. So
I think they would have gotten the ball. They got the ball at the 36 or 37 because with the snap, 7 yards.
You're right with like
Yeah.
the 3-yard shit. Yeah.
But at any rate, your point's well taken.
So
And you're right. Not only did that defy the logic of that game for Campbell, that's his whole coaching tenure. He almost always goes for it on fourth down, especially late in the game. He'll go that's been his moniker. And then he didn't do it. And he asked this kicker, who lots of kickers bounce around, but this guy has never kicked a field goal that long. He missed one shorter than that earlier in the game. And Campbell hasn't kicked. Here's my confession. I told you I had a confession about that.
yeah.
I hate the Vikings. I mean, with a passion. It goes back to my childhood. Okay.
Well, I thought it was from Steve.
No. That was uncomfortable talking about it because he was my boss and he grew up in Minnesota, was a big Vikings fan. But here's why, and I'm open and honest about it. I can't tell you how many times that game Sunday happened when I was a kid. The Lions would beat them up the whole game, and then late in the game, the Vikings would come back and win. I can't tell you how many times that happened. And that's the only reason I don't like the Vikings. It's because they always beat the Lions, and it seemed like we always got screwed. I don't have anything personal against them. There are players they've had that I liked. I like John Randall. I like certain guys on their team. But the confession part of it is this. I taped that game because I couldn't bear to watch it because I knew it was I didn't know. If I knew, I'd have made a lot of money. But I
but
felt
you had
like
the intuition, right?
I just felt like something bad was going to happen again. I did check the score on my phone as the game progressed, and when I saw it was 24-21, I'm going, uh-oh. Because the Lions were up 10 in the fourth quarter. And I just thought, well, I'll be able to watch it and relax. When the game got over and I found out how it ended, and I saw a few highlights, and I've heard the local backlash, I deleted the tape. I didn't even watch the game.
So what was the final score? 28-24?
Yes.
I mean, I don't even know if they had to kick the extra point or what, but
yeah.
So my thing, and I understand you gotta make a game time decision based on momentum. If you're up 10 and they start closing the gap, it changes things. I understand that. But the way I look at it, I understand kicking the field goal and going, you know what, I'm ballsy and I want to put this game away, which it still doesn't put it away. That's the bonehead part. I understand wanting to get up more than a field goal, but like you still don't. If they score a touchdown, you didn't do yourself any favors. So, I would rather go for it than kick the field goal, but I understand the thought process. But my thing to me is we're playing, 60 minutes of football here. And we have 21 points put up against us. Are we really that means that on average they're scoring one touchdown per quarter and they only have a minute left to do it. Are we really scared they're going to drive the whole length of the field when we've only given up 21 points? I'm not. One, if you don't punt it, you're showing your defense that you have no faith in them. But two, this is a team they've only put up 21 points in the first, 49 minutes or 59 minutes of the game. And you got to survive one more, and you're scared that they're going to get more than a field goal. Because if they get a field goal, you could overtime.
I always get frustrated with coaching decisions on defense. And I will openly admit that they're all smarter than me, and they all know more about football than I do. But when I see somebody playing prevent, it's like, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. I am going to play the defense that has been successful for me, like you said, to hold them to 21 points for 59 minutes. I'm playing that defense. I'm not trying to keep stuff ahead of me. That is a single play, desperation type move to me. And I think Aaron Glenn's a really good coach, and I think it may not be this year, but I think soon Aaron Glenn our defensive coordinator, will be a head coach in the NFL. I really do.
No, I
would play that aggressive style. I would play that style that I would stunt, I would blitz, whatever he does, which he does all of those things at various times, and I would not lay back, not in that situation.
No, and you can still run a dime package and run a regular defense just with faster people on the field. If you're going to beat
me, you're going to beat me with what I've had the most success with.
The issue I have with prevent, and I'm sure a lot of people share this. The issue I have with prevent is we're allowing you to nickel and dime us out down the field. Now, if we're not up by 7, you can tie with a field goal, right? I'm assuming, okay, let's say we're only up by 3. Let me make that more specific. If we're only up by 3, you can tie us with a field goal. But eventually, you're going to walk us down the field far enough to where you can start striking at the end zone. And now we've got a problem because we just went prevent. And all of a sudden, when we get close to the red zone, we have to change to a defense that hasn't been on the field for the whole freaking drive.
Frustrated me for 50 years.
But what I hate about it is it's not just the nickel and diming, you're doing the same thing to the clock. So you're going to take that thing down as far as it will go and either tie the game so I don't have a rebuttal, or you're going to win the game and I don't have a rebuttal. But if I play my regular defense and you gash me, there might be 45 seconds left on the clock after you score and I have a chance. And my defense has only allowed 21 points, so there's a good chance that you don't gash me and I stop you. I have a higher percentage chance of stopping you without running the prevent. But even if you do beat me, if one of your burners gets deep and scores, you left time on the clock for me to have a comeback.
Here's one of the coolest things about that game. And again, I didn't watch it. I just read about it. Read an article yesterday about Jeff Okudah. He followed Justin Jefferson, who is one of the premier receivers in this league, for sure. He followed him most of the game. That's sideline to sideline. On plays that he followed him, Justin Jefferson caught 3 balls for 16 yards.
Yeah, I
That's
read
the
an
guy
article.
that's the guy we drafted. That's the guy we drafted.
I read
And
an article
I'm
that said
so glad.
Okuda's good now? Question mark.
I'm so glad. He did that with Devontae Smith in week 1. He never caught a ball.
Boy, those kids from LSU though.
But Justin
receivers are
Jefferson, I mean,
fucking
and
good.
obviously he's a premier receiver in the league. 3 balls for 16 yards while Okuda was guarding him. So that's a promising thing. But going back to the field goal call, to me, it just seemed like we were talking about JJ McCarthy playing scared. All of a sudden, Dan Campbell played scared. He never plays scared. And that shocked me. That just shocked me because he never played scared. I remember when he was a tight end at Texas A&M. I liked him then. I loved it when the Lions got him for a couple years. They sent him as a free agent, and it was late in his career. He is a blood and guts guy. He's Aiden Hutchinson at tight end. You're going to get everything he's got all the time. And that call went so contrary to his personality.
And I mean, that's, I think that's one of the interesting things is that we both have a different opinion on it. But like, to me, he didn't, it was almost the opposite. It was like, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable going for it on 4th down. So I should either get points or I should punt. And then it was almost like his bravado goes, I don't fucking punt. And so he tried to ice the game with a field goal. And like I'm not kidding. Like when I think of him, the way he talks, the way he reacts, you could very well be right that it was totally out of character and he played scared. But in my opinion, it was almost like he was embracing his own attitude, and he let that boy, going for it here is risky, but I don't punt. He almost let that force him into a stupid decision where it was like that. It was just a young coach's mistake. Like it was like the thought process, the logic went out the window, and it was like, if we're not going for it, then we're kicking it because I'm getting something out of this drive. And it's like, that was the worst of 3 decisions, bud.
Well, they always say as many times a punt is a good play. And this is a case where hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
Not 50/50.
Field goal is 50/50 from 54.
But many times a punt is a good play. Again, we're looking at it from different points of view, but that's how I saw it, is that he totally went away from his personality. His personality is to go for it, not to kick it, especially not to kick. We haven't had, it's been a couple years since we had a decent kicker. Like last year, we were running them through here like, it was a revolving door, and none of them were any good.
Well, but we had Hansen and then Prater, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, we went from legend to legend. Like, the Lions had way too good of a field goal kicker for way too long.
Well, you're not going to remember him, but before that, they had Eddie Murray, who was really good. He wasn't long legs.
He wasn't better than Hansen good?
No. He was right before Hansen. And he played a long time after the Lions signed Hansen and drafted Hansen and cut him. And Eddie Murray played till he was in his 40s, but from like 48 yards in, it was automatic.
I would love to see
He was not,
Hansen's
though, a
stats.
52, 54-yard field goal kicker. He just wasn't. But he was a really good kicker.
I would love to see
super
Hansen
accurate
against the greatest of all time. Like, I wonder how high up that list he is. Because he had to have had so many kicks because he played for the Lions.
Oh yeah, he kicked a lot of field goals. I remember, and Jason Hansen was really good, and he played for a long time. Washington State, I believe.
Well, who's the kicker for the Colts and the Patriots? I think
Who did?
I said, who was the kicker for the Patriots and then the Colts?
Adam Vinatieri.
That dude is a fucking monster of a kicker.
Yeah,
or
he was. Yeah, he was good. But Hansen, the one of the most memorable things about Hansen is he was very slight, and this is going to sound funny. He actually had delicate features. And I saw him try to make a tackle on a kickoff once.
Oh no.
It was not pretty. And he was like out for weeks.
Yeah, he had to look like a fucking practice dummy.
Oh, it was bad.
Just got
It was-
ragdoll like one of those car
It
accident
was
dummies.
really bad. I mean,
Well-
he kind of went down in a crumble. you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, like again, if I got Janikowski out there, fine, make the tackle. If it's Hansen, kick the ball and get off the fucking field. You're not our safety. Get off the field. I mean, now if I've got Pat McAfee out there, light somebody up, buddy. Just
whatever. I don't care for that guy.
I know you don't care for him, but he
was a good punter.
was one of the best punters and could hit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no, he was a good athlete. No
I mean,
question.
do you remember him launching? And I understand the guy's little, but do you remember him launching Holiday?
No.
Oh my God. He comes in and he like throws a tackle like he has no idea how to wrap his arms around a guy. And I can't even remember his first name, but it was Holiday. He was a receiver and kick returner for the Denver Broncos.
Tristan Holiday or something like that.
And little dude, there's no doubt, little guy.
Yeah. I think he was an LSU guy.
Just fucking rocked him out of bounds. I mean, I love that shit. And it's like coming from a punter, that's what you got to do. And that guy is a hell of an athlete. I mean, he really is. But anyways, we've been about into an hour here almost. So it's probably time to move forward. Yeah, I know one of the things you wanted to talk about was grandkids, but before that, Melissa and I got this opportunity to go to a fall fest around here with our little boys too, your grandkids. And it was really cool. It's at a local park. There's two sections. Some of it's at the park where they have the jungle gym, slides, and everything that you climb on. And then some of it is in the neighboring baseball fields, like out on the diamonds and outside the diamonds, all of that. And what they do is they fill up a bunch of bounce houses and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like a bunch of bounce houses. They have obstacle courses, the standard houses. They have slides. Everything made out of the inflatable bounce house type stuff. And all the local businesses come out. And so, I mean, there's the dentist is out there, insurance companies are out there. What are they called? The people who help you buy your house. Why can I not think of this? Yes, realtors were out there. Jets Pizza was out there. Every local business you can think of is out there, and they have their own tent. And all of them have a bowl of candy in the middle, and they give your kid candy like it's trick or treating. And then they also give you, their card, their magnet, whatever. But they give you like souvenirs. So we got some of them were spoons with their logo on it to take the guts out of a pumpkin. Other ones were, little tote bags so you could carry all the stuff that you got from everybody else. Some people had frisbees, water bottles. Meyer was out there with a bunch of things. So you get a bunch of little free knickknacks for the kids, which is nice. They had sunglasses for the kids, and all that
That's
candy and fun stuff. And then another big thing is, I don't know if you remember like going out to orchards and stuff during October, but or I guess late fall, but when you go get a pumpkin, you might get like a 2-pound pumpkin and it costs you $20. Well, this one, they had hundreds of them out in the field and it's free. They just
That's
all the
pretty cool.
business came to, so then you get a big pumpkin to carve and they give you the tools, and we didn't carve it there, but so you have that. And there's also all these games. And I just thought this was so funny. You know how I can be at times with like a stern look or whatever you want to call it. I think you say I'm brash. But
Yeah, you are, Brad.
Melissa is playing a game with JJ, and there's these hay bales set up in a rectangular shape with bowling pins at the end. And it's meant to resemble a little bowling alley. And you take these miniature pumpkins that have the stems cut off and you roll them on their side and you do bowling. And Melissa is doing this, and this guy comes up and stands, quote unquote, in line behind her. And he's with his son, no wife. And Melissa's in leggings and a shirt. And he legitimately is just staring at her ass. I mean, like, not saying a word, not talking to his kid. His kid's trying to get his attention, and he's not paying attention. And this dude is zoned out, like glued to her butt crack. And I walk right up to him and just like lean into his face. And he looks at me and he goes, "All right, bud, I think it's time to go." And they fucking left. It's like, what are you doing, you creep? Like, I never said a word to him. He never said anything to me. He just was like, "Oh, fuck, I got caught." And like 180'd like a robot and sped walk away with his son. It was so funny. And I was just, I was cracking up. But we had a lot of fun there other than that creep. They had an outdoor movie, which was cool. One of the areas was really cool because they brought out toddler toys. So Jameson got to go on the ground and play with a bunch of different toys. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they have like a roller coaster, a mini roller coaster made out of like plastic block Legos that the kids ride down.
Yeah.
So they had those, and he got to do stuff, and he was having fun with all these kids. And Jameson very much is your social butterfly. So he was loving playing with the kids, and while he was doing that, one of the moms came up to me, and she was talking to me just about the kids and all the stuff they got to do. And then just kind of out of the blue, it made no sense, but she's like, I was just thinking that, I got to get my kid to fit in these clothes, and he's got these Michigan clothes and these Tiger clothes, and I got to get him to wear them before he grows out of it. And I looked at her like, okay. But then I saw this little kid, and I don't know if it was a track jacket or just a zip up pullover, but probably one of the most baller Michigan zip ups I've ever seen. I mean, it was legit. And it's like, I think she was just trying to bring attention to how cool it was. And that thing was freaking awesome. I mean, like, I'm jealous and I want one, but,
Melissa sent me pictures, for listeners. Melissa's Jared's wife. She sent us pictures, your mom and I pictures of these t-shirts she got for the boys, for your two boys. And I was cracking up at the t-shirts. One of them was for Jay. I mean, she said she sends them in a text and it says, "Guess which t-shirt belongs to who?" And
oh no.
Well,
what's it say? Something about food for Jameson?
No, the one for JJ was, it had like a wrench and a hammer and a screwdriver, and it said "Grandpa's Little Helper," which he is. He loves to help me do stuff, and he's really good.
Oh yeah,
at doing that.
That's perfect.
So obviously, I knew that was his. Well, and I knew that Jameson's was his because it said 99% chance I'm hungry. I thought that was fantastic.
I mean, he's a little human garbage disposal.
But
that's one of the things I talked about with the random parents out there was because they were, you get talking about everything with kids, and it's like, for lunch, we'll make JJ a PB&J, and he eats half of it. JR, who's 2 years younger, he's only a year old. We have to make him like 3. And then he needs a side. He just doesn't stop.
Well, she sent me that. She sent us those pictures of those t-shirts, and I thought those were fantastic. You know how I like t-shirts.
Oh yeah.
And I was looking at it was in a pop-up ad today, and I'm sure that many people have seen this T-shirt. I don't know who makes it. It doesn't matter. I'll try to do it justice. It's in pretty bold print, and there's a girl modeling it, and it says, "I get my attitude in big bold letters, from my freaking awesome, bold again, dad, bold again. So I get my attitude from my freaking awesome dad." And then under that it says, "He has a backbone made of steel and a heart made of gold. He has anger issues and serious dislike for stupid people." Again, in bold, "You hurt me, they'll never find your body."
I like that.
And then underneath in parentheses, "Yes, he bought me this shirt."
That's awesome.
I mean, again, there's a paragraph written on there, and I'm wearing "If I Ever Go Missing, Call Joe Kenda" shirt right now.
Nice.
But you know how I like T-shirts, and I've had them made where I've got, because with all the 6 grandkids, I've got all of their names in chronological order of their birth, from top to bottom on the front, and then on the back, I've got all their nicknames that I call them. So, it wasn't.
So one by one, what are their nicknames?
Okay, there's
Like name the nickname.
Juliana is again, from oldest to youngest. Juliana is Pooj, Pooj.
Does that have an origin, or did this happen?
Jacob was calling her Pooj, or he called her Pooj once or twice, and for me it just stuck, and I call her Pooj still all the time. I'm sure she's 3 now. She'll get to a point where she says, "Grandpa, don't call me that." But I still call her Pooj. And then
16-year-old girl, Pooj.
JJ, I've always called him Boomer, and just because of the way he walks, and he reminds me of a cartoon when I was a kid, and it was a little guy who could yell. He strutted around and he could yell and like cause things to fall down. He yelled so loud. But I call him Boomer. And then Joe's daughter, Montana, I call her Boo. I whenever I talk to her on FaceTime or whatever, I call her Boo. And then Jackson, Jacob's son Jackson, I just, for some reason, I call him Mr. Jackson, because years ago there was a football announcer, and he's long since, I'm sure he announced while you were alive, but he was getting towards the end there. His name was Keith Jackson. And he was always entertaining, so I call Jackson Mr. Jackson. And then your son Jameson, his nickname is Biggin, because when he was born, he was over 9 pounds. He was a biggin.
Great big boy.
And
eater too.
and Joe's son Dallas, his name is Dallas Cash. He's the youngest, and I call him Straight Cash. And so I've got all their nicknames on the back. And all their regular names on the front. And part of it is so I don't forget any of them.
but Joe's youngest is huge.
He's a monster. That kid's big, man. He is big. But Alan, did we talk about Stay Fresh cheese bags? Did we talk about that?
I'm not sure if we did.
Alan's going through this grocery store in Mexico, and I mean, he lives in Mazatlan, so they have like stores that we have, like big box stores that we have, and they have grocery stores that are like Walmarts and stuff. But he saw this package, and it said "Stay Fresh." That was the brand, Stay Fresh cheese bags. And so he sends me a picture of that while he's in the store, and he says, "Now I know of something else to say when I leave a room." Stay Fresh cheese bags.
What a good one-liner.
I know. So I, because we had gone on this trip, and I had those T-shirts made for the trip couple years ago, a couple summers ago. I got T-shirts made that on the front say "Stay Fresh," on the back they say "Cheese Bags."
Oh my
Well, I only
God.
ordered 2 of them, but they shipped 3 of them, and I only paid for 2 of them. So, because I was going to send Alan one, and I wanted him to have it for his birthday, and just as a surprise. So I gave the extra one to Jacob. Well, I send the thing, Alan living in Mexico, he says, don't send anything via the mail. He goes, I won't get it. Or if I get it, it'll be pilfered or I just won't get it. He says, send it UPS or send, it's FedEx.
Yeah.
So I go to the UPS store and I get this T-shirt to send to Alan. And it's a $15 T-shirt, dude. It cost me $85 to send it to Mexico.
I'll send you a fucking picture. Good luck. I'll pay for it to get printed over there, bud. Good luck.
Oh, well, so then, and that's
$100.
not he eventually did get it. He actually got it.
Oh my God.
And he's wearing it. But so then Jacob, I give him the extra one because it's like, I don't know, double X or whatever. So I give it to him. And he's wearing it when he's in a meeting, like a Zoom meeting with his boss, and who happens to be a lady. And she says, what does your shirt say? And so he tells her the whole, and then he turns around and he shows her the cheese bags on the back. Stay Fresh cheese bags. I don't know.
Did she get a kick out of it? Was she a good sport?
Oh, yes. She goes, my husband's got to have one of those, especially after hearing the story. But yeah, $15 T-shirt and $85 to ship it. It's like, I go, what?
Rape my pockets, would you?
I go, this is a $15 T-shirt. And then he's like, I'm sorry. And it's like,
yeah,
well,
she's like, we have to insure the fuck out of it because they get robbed when you send it.
I'm invested now. I have to do it. So
yeah.
I did it. Didn't get there in time for his birthday, but he did get it shortly after. And he sent me a picture right away. He sent me a picture.
How's he doing?
He's doing good, but, I told you about the catastrophe on his motorcycle adventure when he was trying to go to Denver by himself. He flew up to Dallas because Wendy had a family reunion. He rented a bike like we had done last year. He rented a Yamaha 1400 or something. It was a big street bike. It was a nice bike. And the bike broke down outside of Amarillo. And it was 114 degrees and no cell coverage. And so it ends up, his bike trip gets canceled because the bike won't go. A guy came along with a van who happened to be a motorcycle mechanic. And the guy loaded the van, took it back to Amarillo, took him to Amarillo. He bought a plane ticket, flew to Denver to see Jan and JP and Finn. And when he got into Denver, he found out he had COVID. So it was like that trip was a disaster. Then Wendy's in Dallas at this week-long family reunion. When he calls her, she's in the hospital in Dallas with COVID. She got COVID too.
Oh my God.
So that was back in...
How long did it take him to get back home? Because you can't fly with that.
Well, again, I think he just fibbed and wore his mask the whole time. Yeah.
Alan says, fuck everybody else and go home.
Yeah. Because I asked the same thing. I go, did they let you fly?
His moral compass has always been guided in one straight line. Fuck everybody else. I'm good.
Well, he was trying to get to his wife who was sick too. So anyway, then he's and she is too. They're really big into art. So they were going to Mexico City to look at all these like temples and museums and various places. And they were going to be there for like 7 to 10 days. Well, 2 or 3 days after he gets there, there's an earthquake that goes through, and it registers 6.7 on the Richter scale.
Holy shit.
I guess it was actually worse in Mazatlan. It was even higher.
Oh my, what, did tear his house down?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anything happened. They've talked to neighbors and stuff. They're not back home. Well, they might be back home now, but they didn't go back home right away. And nothing in Mexico City was like wrecked. Like they were, but they were on like the 16th floor or something.
Boy, he's always been on the straight and narrow, though.
He was a bit edgy.
Hold on.
I told him, I go, man, you might not want to make any travel plans.
No shit.
It's like disaster follows.
You're gonna be in a plane crash next?
Don't even say that.
But I mean, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Did he just like leave the motorcycle? Like what?
No, he called the guy because he did
it?
one of those rideshare things where you rent it from an individual.
Yeah.
And no, he called the guy. When the guy picked the thing up in his van and took him back to Amarillo. Alan and the guy loaded the bike in the guy's van, and he took the bike and Alan back to Amarillo.
So the bike was originally rented from Amarillo?
No, it was rented in Dallas.
So
but
what
he got it
happened
back
to the
as
bike?
far as Amarillo. And
I mean, this literally sounds like a Louis C.K. joke where it's like, when you rent a car, you're just like, yeah, I left it here. And they're like, sure, you can't do that. And he's like, I'm on a plane. I don't know what to tell you, but the car's there with the keys in it.
Well, no, he had talked to the guy, and the guy was all apologetic, but, and he didn't, obviously
and he
didn't
left
charge
it to
for
that
the
guy
bike.
to go get the bike, right?
I think it quit on the first day. And the guy, between the guy and the motorcycle mechanic, it was all good. And the guy was going to come pick it up.
So he just fucking left it.
Yeah, he left and got a flight to Denver and then got COVID.
He's like, hey, your shit broke down. Good luck, buddy. It's here.
Well, and he was kind of upset because, his trip was ruined. And he was, out a plane ticket and all this other stuff.
Butthurt on his way to go see fucking art and all this fancy shit. Meanwhile, giving everyone COVID that he passes.
Yeah, a whole plane full of people headed back to Dallas. That's what I asked him. I go, they let you fly? He goes, well,
they're like, we're really struggling with this containment because fucking retards keep getting on our planes.
So anyway, I had just suggested to him recently, I said, I said, maybe you should not have traveled for a while.
Seriously, put yourself in a padded room for a hot minute.
Oh, I'm telling you, I
don't eat any exotic food.
We
gotta go out to his place sometime and play some golf with him.
He wants to come up, and he's going to come up. I think he's going to come up. Well, he's doing a bike trip next year, and he wants it to be, he's willing for it to be like in Tennessee or something. Like where he'd fly up to Dallas. Because Wendy has that family reunion every year, and she has a great big family. And, it's okay, but he doesn't necessarily want to stay there for a week, even though she does. That's cool. And that gives him a chance to, take a bike trip.
With who?
So he was actually, he was trying to do it this year. And just because of circumstances, I couldn't do it. I was just going to ride, the big bike down there. And meet him in Tennessee and, fart around for a couple of days, but it just didn't work out. I couldn't get away. There was too much stuff going on here. But he wants to do that every year, and he'd love to play golf. I told him, I go,
well, he's got to come up here to play because I'm not going to find any fucking lefty clubs to rent anywhere.
Well, yeah. Well, you can, but I understand what you're saying. But yeah, he said he wants to do, I would fully expect that he will come to Michigan next year. I don't know that. We haven't talked about that specifically, but I would fully expect that he'll come to Michigan next year. And so maybe we'll get a chance to play golf. It'd be great if he could play in the outing, and I know they'd let us play with 5, and it'd be great if he could play in one of the outings. But yeah, I know he's planning on. He just said he wants to keep doing these kind of things.
I mean, if he could come
as
up
long as he can.
for, I don't know how long he can be out of town from his wife, but if she's there for a week, how many does he have a week, or does he have 4 days, or what?
No, I think he'd have a week.
So if he has a week,
probably even a little more.
If he came up here, we could rent a place, like just the guys, like Petoskey, and we could again do Tunnel of Trees. We could ride around up there, and then we could play on one of their nice ass golf courses too.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he'd want to do that, but I just like if he was coming to Michigan, we don't have to just sit at home. Like we could do a trip here.
Well, I've told him that. I said, I said, I've got 2 bikes, and I think I'm going to have 2 bikes for a minute. So I said, we could do a Michigan trip. If you got here, we could go up into the UP or do whatever. Just, excuse me. Or
we could all fly and meet somewhere. I don't care.
We could do that too.
I mean, there's a lot of the U.S. that I have not been to.
Well,
so, I mean, even if it was just regular
I'm
riding.
I know I've told you this, but you gotta go west, man. It's just so, and the Smokies and all that, and the Alleghenies and the Adirondacks, they're all pretty. They really are, and they're green mountains. But to me, there's just nothing like the West. It's just,
and that's something that's on the bucket list for sure for beauty. I mean, like you and I rode through some mountains on the way to Texas. I don't know if we were in Arkansas or wherever the hell we were at.
The Ozarks, yep.
And they were awesome. But all of those things are like on the bucket list. But I'm even saying, like, if there is something we all want to see, or something like a city you haven't been to, or like how when we were younger, we went to Gettysburg. If there is something that we wanted to go see, I don't even care if I'm riding through like a regular town. It's just like the experience of riding together and then doing something. If we were going anywhere to just cruise and have fun, one thing I would like to ride one day is the Pike out in Pennsylvania. I mean, I drove that for a wedding, and I feel like that would be a great motorcycle ride.
Pennsylvania Turnpike?
Yeah.
Oh, I've driven that more than once on a bike. Yeah.
I mean, I love going through those little small mining towns and all that out there. Pennsylvania's awesome. But I'm just saying, like, regardless of what the trip is, if we want to do something where it's like beautiful motorcycle ride, and I obviously don't have a problem with that, but if there's something you guys wanted to see that's not off the list yet, like I don't know if there's a place you haven't been that you still want to go. It's like, I wouldn't mind just doing that, just to share that experience, and whatever riding we find while we're out there, we find.
There's some beautiful places in Texas, and I'm sure he'd fly to Dallas, rent a bike, and then, ride with us. We'd have to rent bikes too,
How is Colorado?
I'm sorry?
How is Colorado for riding?
Awesome.
Because I have never been.
The last I knew, Colorado had more motorcycles per capita than any state in the union.
Well, I've never been. I know his daughter Jan lives out there, and so we could, do a guy's trip, stop and see her as well, and ride. And again, we'll figure this stuff out when we're not recording. But there's a lot of cool things we could do, and I mean that sounds exciting. If you guys are open to everybody going, I absolutely would be interested.
Man, I'd love that. And I tell you, I mean, I'd absolutely go to Rapid City again, but I want to go to Yellowstone again. I want to go to Yellowstone. And I want to go in through the north end, through Montana. I mean, it is just, we've talked about it before. It's
Well, and
just beautiful, beautiful.
And
country.
speaking of Alan, we definitely next episode we should bring up some good. Maybe we'll do a highlight reel of your funniest moments with him. But we definitely got to bring some of those up. I think people would really enjoy them. But we're approaching our hour and a half mark right here. So, is there anything else you want to talk about briefly for a few minutes, or you good to wrap up?
No, I think I'm good to wrap up. But we should just, for our sake, and we should get your brothers in the loop, and we should talk about when we could make that happen, because that'd be a fun trip. And it doesn't matter where.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm good to
right.
go.
All right. Well, once again, we appreciate you guys stopping in and listening. To all of our listeners, please like, follow, share, subscribe. If you have any recommendations for topics you want us to cover, any segments that you really enjoyed and you'd like us to talk about more, please let us know. Feel free to comment below the video. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks.
Take care.